It's a 4-mana Ill-Timed Explosion. I like Spell Pierce
Spell
here
Pierce, make him
because
pay the
that's
2.
that's also that's crucially that's forcing the Nissa to die.
Do we have a second one?
I don't think we have a second one, but I like the first one there because it means the Nissa has to die because you have to use the treasure token that you got from the kite sale.
Alright,
And
what card are we discarding here then?
I'm not sure. It's gotta have at least, like, 3 meta value because it's gotta be able to kill the kite sail, otherwise it's kind of a useless sweeper. Wouldn't
It's
be
like
sassy
maybe
the memory deluge
yep,
though.
discard Deluge. Should be able to cast it a couple turns from now. A bunch of
Yep.
lands.
And it is kind of interesting that Ill-Timed Explosion this isn't gonna come up here and probably not in this matchup particularly, but Ill-Timed Explosion can be just a divination if you really need it to be. Like, it's a May ability on the discard too. And so
Yep.
now we're gonna see Sentinel, and we're gonna see it crewing this sooner almost certainly.
Make sure we get that map.
Yeah, map and, use the map
Immediately map
and
onto it.
hit the cavern.
Yep.
Probably gonna name Merfolk. I mean, I can't imagine not, right? And then that not oh, yeah.
Are we not crewing or okay,
Yeah.
here we go.
Alright. Yeah, so we're crewing the Sooner, and we're attacking in for 3, and
And we'll
Sentinel just
explore back on the
exploring again.
Sentinel.
That's a second
Second
cavern.
cavern.
Not ideal, but, I mean
Those are 2 draws that aren't gonna be terrible top decks now.
yeah,
So
but
the Explorer is great at filtering through the top of the library.
yeah.
Let's see if Noah's got a powerful follow-up when he
Noah's
knows there's no
paying
counter
6. Oh,
magic.
and that's just a pure World Source Rage there. That's
It's gonna be ramp 4, deal 4, gain
yeah,
4.
wishing that you had hit it that's clearly wishing you'd gotten the counter there because, like, Noah would have been 1 mana short if Haviva
Yeah,
had
wouldn't have been able to kill a 4 or
but
5.
Haviva just happened to double whiff, and that's how it goes sometimes. Does look like I mean, if Noah's got the memory deluge, right?
Yep.
And
And the
I
ability to
don't
pay through it too.
and like with alright, so that's a Vodalian Headcatcher on I think that was just pass, not like on end step or anything. So that's gonna be a pretty solid card for Haviva, but I'm not
Yep,
sure
that was
how
main
you
phase.
yeah, so I'm not sure how you're gonna fight through 10 lands on Noah's side here, right? Like
And then what was that? A Jadelight Spelunker on top, it
yes.
looked like.
So that's gonna
So we have a big follow-up next turn, but
you definitely do. Oh, and it seems like a land play dot.
I just don't see, getting Noah down from 15 from this spot.
Yeah, next turn you can hit him for like a non-sizable amount. You need but like the problem is you're just so close to like dead.
Yeah, I mean, if this game keeps carrying on like this, Noah's gonna take over.
Oh yeah.
I see an Aftermath Analyst in hand, that'll get back 5 lands, 6 lands at this point. He's gonna have every single land out of his deck. He's gotta hit some gas off of that Memory Deluge.
And I think he might also even have a Virtue Strength in hand, which could just easily be lights out for the game here. Like
Yeah, if he's not gonna die next turn, I mean, we could see him jam it right here.
yeah. And I mean, this is one of the things about this matchup where you've got like if you can't get quite enough of a clock from the Merfolk deck, it just game, right?
It's amazing that 1/3 Shigeki held off
oh yeah, I mean,
maybe 5 damage over the course of the game.
and that might not be relevant, but it might be, right? Like
No, I mean, just a 1/3. You have to have so much pressure plus disruption, and Vivo had, 50/50 of each, right? It wasn't enough of either.
yeah. So we're seeing a top. So we're gonna draw the Jadelight Spelunker here. Looks like
No,
we're
we're still
gonna
on
be
Noah's turn.
looks like we're gonna be ill-timed explosioning. Now
We might just be drawing 3 on this one.
we're drawing 2.
We're drawing 2, right?
Yeah,
4
seems
mana
like that's what he's
divination.
doing. I mean, 4 mana divination isn't great, but at this stage of the game, it's kind of what you got to do. And Aviva's checking to make sure it's a May for discarding, but it is. And so yeah, I mean like
Crack that. Get back a bunch of lands.
yeah. So that's 5 lands. That's you're gaining 5 life. I mean, the deck is trying to be as aggressive as possible. Has an opponent at 21.
Yep.
Like it's
And it
Jade-
only gets worse from here as
I mean,
well.
Jadelight Spelunker is gonna do its best, but like, and also any of like your spell pierce or anything can't do anything against this many lands,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, what are we, like 14 mana at this point?
I'm counting 18.
18 mana at this point, yeah.
And
Your
I mean, like,
counter spells don't matter, your Hex Catcher doesn't matter.
if you've got a Virtue of Strength that balloons up to like 33,
You're gonna Spelunk for 5 or whatever on this turn, crew up
Yeah,
both
so what?
corners.
Yes, you take like Splunker X equals 6. Wait, you explore 6 times. Problem is, you're just gonna die. Like,
Yeah, do you just leave this on top, or do you start sifting through the library?
I think alright, so it
Yep,
seems like it's
leave it
just
on
gonna
top,
top and
crew both.
who both and I mean, that J like Splunker is scary, right? Because it's a 9/9 right now. Because it's got 7 counters on it and um, the Lord is also buffing it up.
Yeah, it looks like we actually do have lethal on board right now,
But the
so we'll
problem
see
is,
if Noah can do anything.
but I just can't imagine Noah, like, I
Yeah,
mean
he has to have real cards. There's no way that he's just sitting on nothing in his hand.
so, I mean, he's got a World Swords Rage in hand, I can see that. And so if he's got a Virtue of Strength, the game's over, 'cause you've got enough lands left over that you can Virtue of Strength in the World Swords
But I
for
think he's counting it
yeah,
up right now.
yeah,
There's
alright, so if Virtue, then he's got the World Souls, I believe, so yep.
33 mana.
Well, you gotta be careful, like, 'cause you can't do it for X equals 31, of course, because you don't wanna get hex scattered,
Yep.
but Noah's a good player, I doubt he'd
I mean, he
fall for
only
that.
needs to deal 20 damage, so it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, yeah, so just X equals 21, or X equals 7 X equals 21,
There we go.
and so that's
Looks like
game
we're
1
good.
here. I mean, it's an interesting matchup for Merfolk, like, you see, that was not a super aggressive start for Merfolk there, and the one of Shigeki really did prove its worth in that matchup.
And they do bring in some really good cards in the sideboard. We've
Yeah,
got Negates, Disdainful Strokes. It's possible that you see an Unlicensed Hearse or a Pick Your Poison coming in,
and you're seeing, on Noah's side, he's bringing in, like, 2 Lithomantic Barrages maybe, but his deck's just not prepared for this matchup.
but maybe it's good enough in game 1 that it just
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I doubt that he has too many reps against
Oh, most
Oko.
definitely not, like
Matt Choi is in shambles at the moment, I'm sure.
mhm. Alright, so now
Looks
we're
like we're
taking a
jumping
quick
into
look
Modern.
at yeah, we got Modern. I have a Battle of the Artifacts decks
Yep.
with where you've got Urza Sword piloted by Dwee, and then you've also got, and he's playing the Urza now. Pretty scary for Affinity, though we did see round 1 how this new version of Affinity can just win out of nowhere and make an insane amount of power.
But
But
on 2 mana and only with an Aether Spellbomb in hand, this is gonna be pretty hard for Andrew
yeah,
to kind of explain it.
but he really
There's a
oh,
chance that he goes Synthesizer, couple 0 drops, makes a
yeah.
bunch of
What he would
constructs, and
need is something like you tap it, you might get Epiphany Needle. I'm gonna check if his deck has Epiphany Needle in the main. So that's gonna be important. I don't believe so. Oh no, he does, yeah. So grab Piston Needle almost certainly off the saga.
well, it's gonna be really hard to
Is
Pithing
that
Needle
not
anything
floating?
because we have a Haywire Mite in play.
Yeah, that's the problem, I
So
guess.
you would have to name the Haywire Mite and then find another one, but it looks like we have a Sword of Meat in play,
Yeah, we got a sort of meek in play.
so
And so we are one top deck
we're
away
one
from
Foundry away from comboing it all.
the infinite combo.
I do not think there's a single card in Andrew's deck that can beat Infinite Love.
Nope. I mean, you can deal a ton of damage in this deck, but you can't deal an infinite amount. And for anyone watching who doesn't understand the infinite combo, you would play the Foundry, which would let you sack the sword to make a 1/1, which brings back the sword, and then you keep on doing that, and you tap Ursa, or you use Ursa to tap the sword infinitely many times. So you gain infinite life, you make infinite mana, and you make infinite mana.
Tapped. I mean,
Oh,
but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's
Well, some of them can be
it was
tapped.
quite the combo when Modern Horizons 1 dropped. We had Astrolabe, Modern was still legal,
Yeah, so you
and
are seeing that Pithing Needle coming down. But the problem
it's
is,
yeah.
Haywire Mite.
Who do you what do you name? Do you name Haywire Mite or do you name Urza to or maybe even the sword? I mean, there's a million
I mean,
things
you
that you
can't
can
name the
name.
sword, but you name Foundry.
There's
Uh,
a synthesizer
so there's a synthesizer coming down. I mean, there's 4
and
artifacts
no
there,
follow up.
but yeah, no Frogmite is also pretty yeah. So I mean, you can. Is that just spinning the wheel there on
Let's see,
Urza?
four
Yeah,
or
I think that's
five. Yep.
spinning Urza.
Nothing in
Yeah,
hand.
so Pithing Needle is on here. That means so it's temporarily selling it down. That's a Esper Sentinel. which
Free cast on that, nothing wrong with that.
and yeah, I mean,
Andrew's kinda choked on mana right now, so that Sentinel might draw a couple cards.
and he's kind of choked on mana. You do see that construct on the other side's getting really big, which is
I'm gonna play a free sword here.
oh, was he just up to
We're
me?
just getting in there.
I are we activating? Oh, I think we are. Yeah, I think we're getting in. So that's a lot of damage because that construct's really big. Yeah,
It's like,
that's
6/6 on the Construct and then 7/8 off the Urza and the Haywire Might. Andrew down to 11.
and then the 9 off the swords and yeah.
Sure.
And then yeah, so it's gonna be a pretty darn I mean, like so that's what we're looking for down this. Espanol gonna trigger. And now Andrew, I mean, can Andrew pay for it? It's kind of terrible if you do, right? Because
Well, it depends on what he's got going on in his
yeah,
hand.
because I mean, yeah, if you've got like nothing in hand, looks like you see a thought monitor in hand, which would be really good on this board.
Yeah, let him draw. He
Yeah,
might need
because
that second.
this yeah, so you make a construct and you get to draw 2. I mean, you see Andrew's kinda coming back into that yeah, I mean,
Yep, there's
this
a Sumerian Camp
this
Companion
is the power of the affinity deck, right? It was
and a Springleaf Drone.
and you also is minorly important, probably won't come up, but you can theoretically try and use, Ace the Vial to, like, stop the Azure combo. It's not like, if you have to, like, use too much mana early on, so you can't be able to recast Urza
Spell Bomb, you mean?
yeah, they spell bomb.
Yep.
You can, like I mean, if you has to, like, activate Urza twice or whatever before finding the Stop the Foundry, it's not crazy to try and bounce it back and stop the combo with one turn. That might be all it takes, right? Because
Yeah,
there's 2 giant constructs on the other side. That's
as long as Ree doesn't tap too low and is still able to recast the
yeah.
Urza,
Oh, and that's the one ring.
there's a ring.
That's big. So,
It's hard to beat.
ring draws, Stop the Foundry just wins, right? Oh, that's Stop the Foundry. That's probably gonna be game. You
Yeah,
see
so we should be able to even float enough blue to recast the Urza,
yeah, so you
and
play Stop the
then
Foundry, you can throw as much blue as you need, I mean, Andrew's deck doesn't have any answer to it.
and we have a Shadow Spear in Dwee's, main deck, so he would be able to play all the cards off the top of his library until he plays Shadow Spear, make the construct infinitely large, trample lifelink, be able
Yeah,
to kill him this turn.
yeah.
So the infinite life didn't even matter.
Yeah, because you could get infinite mana. Alright,
Yep.
so we're looking at
Alright, jumping over to
yeah,
Pioneer
this
here.
is a battle between teammates where you got and it seemed like you've got Kyle playing his Is It Creativity deck, we've seen that a couple times here. You've got an Unmoored Ego in the yard. I'm not entirely sure what that hit. I would guess
I think it
maybe
got Make disappeared.
oh yeah, it looks like it is. It did. And you're seeing
3 mana sorceries aren't exactly, great against the blue-red control deck.
yeah, wow, we're seeing that, it's been a tough first game for all of Chris's team, where all
Oof.
3 game 1s went towards Kyle and Boone. So, they would need a big comeback here to win it. And I mean, so you see Chris hitting Fable with Leyline Binding. That's one of the things that makes Fable such a crazy card. Once it was all it's almost impossible to trade one for one with it.
Oh, yeah,
Because
it's
it's just
it's never a one-for-one. Farewell is probably the only card that can do it.
and that's I mean 6 mana, right? So
Yep, you
like
already have to be at 6 mana to do that.
and like
Alright,
and you
Chris
see
is tapped out, picked up a Yorion, and we could see a creativity right
nope,
here.
probably not though.
Nope, we're just
I
gonna
mean,
pass it
that's not
back.
crazy because there's no good,
Free 5/6, that's all it is.
yeah, there's no, like, Magma Opus in the yard or anything like that.
Looks like we're just holding up counter spells here.
I mean, that might be enough, right? Like, if you can hold up counter spells against, like, if Chris tries to, like, Beam to Light or whatever here, then counter into untap it and do whatever could be very good.
Yeah, Bring to Light playing almost exclusive sorcery speed is gonna
Alright,
be
see
really tough.
ooh, this is a bit of a blowout. We've got playing, Stern Lesson, I believe that's the name of the card, but and but then Notion keeps moving on Chris's side to steal some of those draws.
Yep, and then Kyle just has to discard a card, and that's it.
Kyle does pitch the Magma Opus, which means that creativity in his hand is gonna be very good, and we do see the creativity in hand. So I believe so that's gonna be very scary for Chris, of course, because you're gonna get a 5/6, you're gonna get back the Opus.
Yep, 4/4, kill the Notion Thief. It's gonna be a lot of value here.
And actually, I'm trying to think if that Goblin's outside, so it seems like it's just giving passed back. I'm a little surprised by that. I guess Magma Opus would give Chris a lot of cards.
So it depends on which order all of the abilities happen. So the deal 4, if that happened first, or if the deal 4 happens last, is
And
how it would
I
matter.
would think that they would come down to state-based effects where Garrett Notion Thief dies from state-based actions that you would draw before that happens. But I don't
Sure.
know.
So maybe the draw 4 is just too
But it
much
would
of a
certainly happen that if that you've got a second Magma Opus in Kyle's hand, and if Kyle used that, then the second one he would just draw everything off of because and like if I
Yep,
wouldn't be shocked to see Kyle pitch Magma Opus into a creativity X equals 2.
2, yep, you
But of
should have the
course,
mana here.
but now Chris is holding up a lot of mana, which is a bit scary for Kyle.
Does Chris have cards like Dovin's Veto in his list?
Well,
I see yep, I see one in his hand. I'll see a
uh,
Kolaghan's Command, which
yeah, you've
could
got
mess up his play if he goes for a treasure or a goblin. You can kill both of them.
yeah, so definitely I Chris might be regretting or Kyle might be regretting here not being able to get in that creativity last turn because now if it's unlikely to imagine that Chris is gonna tap out of Dovin's Veto mana
Yeah, that might have been his only opportunity to do it.
and just gonna be rough for Kyle if he wants to resolve that creativity. He probably just can't, right? Because
Yeah, and Chris is probably okay playing this slow game.
yeah, he does have a Niv Mizzet does have the Niv Mizzet from Wolf of Spark in hand, which would let him refill his hand pretty completely. Now, I believe that Kyle has 3 steps ahead, which is a very exciting new card from Outlaws at Thunder Junction. Yeah, and I believe that is yeah. So Chris is gonna play that, yeah, I'm not shocked to
Yep.
see and that's just
You're
being
just gonna see
used
the cancel mode.
I mean, that's not a crazy usage mode of 3 steps ahead. One of the things that makes it so useful is, yeah, sometimes you can use it as like a Sublime Epiphany to counter something and make a copy. But when you need it to just be a cancel, it can be a cancel.
Notably not being able to kick into a cancel as well because of Notion Thief.
Yeah,
Oh, it looks like we've just naturally drawn a Gear Hulk.
yeah, I
So
mean, that's
that's a way to blow out this
yeah, that
Notion
can
Thief.
that's a way to and that can get right through, Dovin's Veto easily because, Dovin's Veto can only hit non-creature spells, so
Thankfully for Chris, he has a K command in his hand as well. That's a
yes, he
very
would
clean
be
answer to a
and
Gear
so
Hulk.
what would probably happen here I'm expecting here that oh, well.
Oh, just
So
take 3.
but if Kyle were to play if when Kyle plays, Gearhulk, I'm expecting to see then Chris will respond with Dovin's Veto on the Magma Opus from the yard, and then potentially, at his discretion oh, and he's actually gonna be analyzing the pollen. That's a fun new card, a fun newish card from MKM. He's gonna be basically using it as a tutor because you can either pay 1 mana as, like, a Lay of the Land, or it can tutor a card into your hand
With the
if you
collect evidence
collect
5.
evidence. And so,
Getting a
yes,
Klothys here.
trying to play the grindy game. Also, exiling cards from an opponent's graveyard is rather valuable with the Magma Opus there.
Yep, very relevant in this matchup.
And so but if Chris tries to, get past the Magma Opus, I can very easily see it get countered by Jovencito, and it's only kind of a game that's rather up for grabs here. I could definitely see either player coming away with this.
So how is Kyle gonna get out of this? There's
So
the
he's
Gear Hulk.
Gearhulk's doesn't even
I
start
imagine
there.
this is gonna be a veto on the Opus.
I must imagine it will be because but, I mean,
I guess he doesn't have to cast anything.
the gob yeah, he's going for 3 steps ahead, but
Yep,
with
just veto whatever he's gonna do.
yeah, and I actually I might have considered the I'm not sure, but if I were Chris, I might have gone for a K command there instead.
Yep. Yeah, I when he's going for what I assume was the make a 2/2 mode, just get a flyer in play, I would heavily consider just leaving that counter spell in my hand. you're playing a Nibdelite or a Yorion deck, there's not a high chance that you draw another
That's
counterspell this
actually
game.
that's the difference between counterspell. This one would make a copy of the Gearhulk,
Oh, sure,
but
sure.
so
Okay.
what I was thinking is K command can blow up the Gearhulk with the copy target on the stack,
Mhm.
so that you can avoid getting the Magma Opus back. But I don't know. It's rough for Chris because like Chris doesn't know about the creativity in hand. He might have guessed it, but he might not have given how it's been playing this game. So you do see Vanishing
Vanishing
Verse
Verse.
being used on that's a rather like that can just hit most of Kyle's deck. And actually, you do see that Goblin Shaman has been really crucial for Kyle because Kyle's been stuck on 5 lands his entire game, but the Goblin Shaman has meant that he's had about as much mana as he could need.
Yeah, at one point, he was ahead on mana,
Yeah,
and now that he's used up a couple of those treasure tokens, we're very even.
but he can still always like cast big cards from his deck, which from his hand, which is not always the case when you got a deck like this that has tons of 6 drops and
Yeah, he's really gotta deal with this Notion Thief before his deck can start to function, though.
yeah,
It's just
it
been a
wouldn't
huge
even.
hindrance on him.
There's potentially a world. I'm not saying that he would do it here, but there's a world where he could creativity for X equals 3, targeting like 2 things of his own and the Notion Thief,
Yep.
just rolling the dice that Chris won't hit a better thing, and that he can get the Magma Opus value.
Yeah, there's gotta
And
be something terrible in Chris's list that he could hit.
I mean, the biggest threat would be like a another live would be pretty terrible.
Sylvan Caryatid would probably be the worst thing for him to possibly hit.
Yeah,
But on
like,
good
but
cards, an Omnath, a
Omnath
Niv
would be bad,
Mizzet,
Niv Mizzet would be
either one
bad.
would be terrible for him.
Yeah, so it's definitely kind of a high risk thing that if you happen to roll into Sylvan Caryatid, then you're practically fine. But if you hit a Niv Mizzet, then you're in big trouble.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, are you playing to win or are you playing to not lose, I guess?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you see
If he
that.
thinks he can keep playing this game, I mean, he
Oh, that's just a hard cast
Opus,
opus.
nothing no counterspell here.
And you're seeing that is kind of the problem of burning that Dovin's Veto instead of trying to use the K command. Where if you Dovin's Veto can't deal with the K command like
Right, tap some lands, kill something.
but you do see drawing those 2 cards is rather nice for Chris. That's a Beanstalk and a Leyline Binding, both of which are gonna be pretty valuable for Chris. And, I mean, Kyle's not on a yeah, so Chris was dead on board because he was facing down 6 power, 6 life. You take
What was that binding on?
that was binding on the 4/4 made by Magma
Sure.
Opus. But the problem so now Chris is basically gonna try and drain, drain Kyle out of the game using Clothis.
Yep, he just has to live long enough for it to happen.
Yeah, but that's no guarantee because, I mean, Kyle is able to if Kyle can get back a Magma Opus, he can just very easily win the game.
Yeah, he can win the game next turn if he's able to get a Gear Hulk on Opus.
So gonna Clothis probably try and oh, yep,
There we
so that's
go.
Gearhulk.
Now, Chris does have the answer in hand. He's got a K command and he's got a Vanishing Verse. So I don't believe that he's dead just yet.
Yeah, I believe that puts him down to 2? 3? I think 2 though. I believe
It looks like this would be in for our hero Chris Smith and his 80 card one of.
unless the rest of his team can rally a rather large comeback, yeah. Seems like it. I mean, enough.
Yeah, it's tough to be undefeated all day, first time in the feature match, and losing to another team of teammates, right?
Yeah,
This top four just had Swish written all over it.
yeah. So it does seem like you got the Yoy in hand, and that will be able to flicker
You could Beanstalk into Yorion,
and
Flicker,
flicker the
Leyline
Leyline
Binding.
bindings. And I mean, flickering both Leyline bindings, it will mean you'll get Fable back, which is great. But you can hit like the 4/4 and the six in the Gear Hulk, and that is a vanishing verse in hand. Oh, is that the counter?
Oh, now
Yep,
he's got
that's the same
that's the
for
same full stroke.
yeah, and
That should do it. Yep.
yep, and that's the fist bump. So
All right, so Kyle doing his job, getting his team a little bit closer to the finals.
yep, and like that was a very tight match between two rather controlling decks, but creativity's ability. Oh, and you see Chris talking about that Gulligan's
Mhm.
command line, and I think it's very much one of those things where the ability to podcast those magma opuses is really important.
It looks like we're coming back to Teamer Control versus Merfolk.
Yeah, you've got a rather large. I'm not sure what it is. It's a big spore creature, so like
And this is the wanted poster cards, huh?
yes,
And I could not tell you what it would be. It looks like we've got another Spelunker up there. Just a 2-2, 3-3 versus a 2-4 Flagi Archaeologist and a Nissa.
yes, and so I mean,
It looks like Noah's floating some mana,
so that's an
getting some lands
unlicensed
back.
hearse.
Oh, that is a hearse.
And Hurst is going to be doing a lot of work here in making sure that like you can't that one. I mean, if it gets big enough, that can be a big threat. But it can also do a lot of work in trying to stop any like big stuff with the elf from with the
With the aftermath
yeah with
analyst.
the
Yeah,
aftermath analyst or with like getting back like the fireball or anything using
so it
like
kinda looks like exactly what we watched in game 1. We're on turn 7 or 8 or whatever, and Noah's turn 17.
yeah. I mean, this one might go a little differently because of the hearse because it's going to be harder for Noah to like to get graveyard value, but
But
so
once you
many
got 15
yeah. I
lands in
mean, you've
play,
got
what does it matter, right? Couple of counter spells to play around.
yeah, you've got 14 lands on the battlefield. You've got unnecessary. I mean, I don't think you're going to lose too much if you get by the hearse a few times or whatever. Or if the hearse is in hurting your graveyard. You do see that virtue, which I believe must have gotten. Oh, and
Put
Andrew
this
also
back
won.
in the
Yeah, so Andrew also
oh,
won.
Andrew won, so that looks
So
like the match is over.
yeah, so it looks like the match is over. We
Aviva
see
saying hi to chat.
yep, and
Hopefully Merfolk fans see that, but it looks like Noah's team is heading to the finals.
yeah, I mean, this was a team that did very well the entire event. Like we, Chris and Riva actually drew with Tyler and Noah and Andrew's team so that they would both make the top four. But unfortunately, they happened to shake out. And that was not great for them. And I mean, that's how it goes sometimes. And like,
Yeah, sometimes you go in first seed, you haven't lost a match all day, maybe not a game all day, and then you hit this top 4 and, you're playing against other really good teams and other really good players. It is hard to take 2 matches from a team like this.
yeah,
I mean, Noah, Kyle, and Andrew have all had their own success. Obviously, Dwee, Chris, and Haviva are great players as well. We loved watching them out on the floor. I know you didn't get to see them in feature, but congratulations to them, and we'll be back for the finals.